This question I have been asked frequently when I was giving talks on the Divine Mercy in different places, and not only places, but I could say also in different countries. Or even people sometimes ask me whether I met Sister Faustina. So my answer was that I didn't meet her personally, but very early in my life, couldn't tell exactly at what age, I knew one thing which I used frequently: Jesus, I trust in you. And I never remembered how it came about that I learned that, but most probably my parents, and above all my mother, who was always reading religious books, and especially religious books with prayers, that she knew the caption, Jesus, I trust in you. And that's why she taught us, and that's how most probably I learned from her. And I used that, I remember very well, in difficult situations. For instance, I had friends in a little town, Służewo, and I lived away from that 5 kilometers. And I like to go to meet my friends, and very frequently I was staying quite long, that I was coming home, it was already night. And I always remember then when sometimes there was a thunderstorm or lightning. So then I was repeating when I was running back home, Jesus, I trust in you. And that's all. That was the beginning, always been staying in my mind. When I was ordained priest, and that was 8th of July 1956, and were 8 of us ordained, and my friends very quickly received the papers from the bishop where they were going to be in the parishes, when they were going to be working. And I was waiting already 1 month, and I didn't get the nomination. And the bishop knew me very well, because I was frequently with the bishop from the very beginning when he came to the diocese, Bishop Antony Pawłowski. And we met somewhere, and he said, oh, you probably are thinking why you are still not being given the appointment to a parish. I said, certainly. He said, I just wanted to tell you. Already I was trying to put you to few parishes, and you had not been confirmed by the communist authority, because in Poland during that time was the hard communism, what used to be called the Stalinism period, and every priest, not only bishop or parish priest, but also assistant priest, had to be confirmed when they were going to work. And the bishop told me that, as I already said, that he tried already few places, and everywhere I was not confirmed, so I couldn't really go to work there permanently. And he said also, because my diocese was situated in 3, what in English would be shires, and he said to me that he already tried in 2 shires. One was sort of Bydgoszcz and another Poznań. And he said, now I will try to appoint you and send the papers to the communist authorities in another shire, the 3rd one. He said you had to still wait. And I was waiting another month, and that already came September. So since July the 8th, I had not been appointed because of the lack of agreement from the communist authorities. And it was already September. I couldn't remember exactly offhand which September I got the paper with the appointment. But the bishop temporarily, he sent me to a parish, as he said that you are going to stay there as a guest and you are going to wait for the appointment as a permanent assistant priest. And as I said that I was waiting another month, it means up to the probably the first week or the second week of September 1956. And Świnice Warskie, that's where Sister Faustina was born, that's where she was brought up as long as to the age of 18. I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about Sister Faustina. Or in other words, Helen. Her name was given her at the baptism time. So I asked my friends, because although I was frequently going on a visitation with my bishop as a secretary, even when I was still not ordained priest, because I was a master of ceremony at the seminary, and the bishop wanted to have with him somebody who knows the liturgy well. I never been to that parish, to Świnice Warskie, and I was asking my friends, priests, and they said, oh, that is a very small parish. And I said, doesn't matter whether it's small or big, tell me how I could get there. And of course they explained to me, and I met the parish priest, who was Francis Jabłoński. When I arrived there I began to learn from him something about the family and above all about Sister Faustina. Why? Because he told me his story that he experienced great miracle. Because when the war in Poland began, when we were invaded by Hitler's army, they were arresting priests. And they also came to take away Father Francis Jabłoński in the parish of Świnice Warskie. And when they led him from the presbytery through the churchyard and the Gestapo, when they were passing the main entrance to the parish church, Father Francis said to me that he stopped, and they, to great surprise, they didn't disturb him, and he looked at the entrance to the church and he said this: Sister Faustina, that they are taking me away, that is visible, but where they are taking me, I don't know, but certainly not to a good place. So wherever they are taking me, if you will intercede to the merciful Jesus, wherever they are taking me, and I was going to survive, I will come back to this parish and will build a church under the name of the merciful Jesus. I will build the church in the place, in the part of the parish where people had as far to the parish church as about 10 kilometers, because the parish was situated in this way that on one part the longest distance was only 4 kilometers, on the other part, going to the big city of Lodz, was as far as 10 kilometers. So he was saying and promising that I was going to build a church there, under the name of the merciful Christ. Father Francis was taken to concentration camp to Germany called Dachau, and he was there, and because it was a concentration camp mainly for priests, for instance, from my diocese, in that concentration camp died 260, I think, 3 priests and a bishop, auxiliary bishop, Bishop Kozal. And he survived, Father Francis survived, and when I was going to Australia with my talks about the Divine Mercy, I visited Poland and I went to the archives and I looked at the file of Father Francis and I found a telegram from Germany when he was saying, I survived, I am coming back, would you prepare for me an appointment, but to the same parish from which I was arrested. I was taken away by the Gestapo. And that's why he came back. And when I came, I was a second assistant priest after the war. The church was already built in that place, and he built the church more or less in the colors of the rays coming from Jesus' heart. That the walls were from a whitish bricks, and the roof, which was not put at that time when I came, because it was winter coming. He hasn't got the money, so he put just a thatched roof, but the real roof was going to be from the tiles reddish and some other surroundings, in order to reflect the red streams of rays coming from the heart of Jesus. So he showed me the church. Not only he showed me, but he said that the church was affiliated. There was a not separate parish. Now the church is a separate parish. At that time, still was affiliated to the main church where Sister Faustina was baptized and the parish in which she lived and the parents. And already I always have in my mind that when we went to see the affiliated church, there was a beautiful image of the merciful Jesus in the main altar on a natural size of a quite tall man, and Jesus was walking on a green lawn, and from the grass they were coming whitish and red flowers. These little flowers, maybe the daisies. And that's where I was staying there 1 year. Then I was working with Sister Faustina's brother, because she had two brothers, and both were musical, and both were organists. One of them, Stanley, was the organist in the parish of Świnice Warckie, in the parish when Sister Faustina was baptized and born and going to the church and so on. There were 2 boys and 8 girls, so 10 children, if I remember well. And that was the beginning, which at that time probably I was listening and the interest was growing, but it didn't really tell me anything more what eventually Sister Faustina was going to be. But the reason why, that is never is written why, or never was written, but of course we can say from the distance now of so many years, and what really Sister Faustina became. Jesus had in his plans to come and show himself to the whole world as Christ, with the special aspect or special power of his mercy. And he was certainly looking for somebody whom he wanted to take the message on to the whole world. And that's probably what we could be certain. I began to see the whole connection of myself and Świnice Warckie, which was the place of birth of Saint Sister Faustina. And I began to think, when I involved myself in this work, that probably the reason why the communists were not accepting me to any parish where the bishop wanted to send me at once after the ordination, because he wanted me to be in Świnice Warckie. And he wanted that I will meet the family, Father Francis, and learn about Sister Faustina and about the whole story, how she entered into the religious order, so on. Because there are a lot of evidence that that was the reasons. Because when I started to read the diary, and it was quite, maybe that I saw the diary here or there, but I never read the whole, at that time, the whole diary, or even being much involved. It was rather only in 1993, 94, when I went to America. That's where I got to my hands from one of the family, the diary I began to read. But that is another story. That is the continuation, how I was involving myself. But at that time, the only thing which I learned, and I was very much inspired or moved, that mainly was the story about Father Francis, the parish priest, which he made with Jesus through the intercession of Saint Sister Faustina. And the covenant was to build the church in that area under the name of the merciful Christ. Well, I think that I was very much interested in the daughter of the Kowalski family, that Sister Faustina, most probably, she was already met me when I was the assistant priest in Świnicewackiem, that she probably wanted me to be one of the priests to enter into the development of the knowledge of the apparition of Jesus and about the whole story about the divine mercy. Because Jesus was saying to Sister Faustina frequently that you convince priests to talk about the divine mercy. And that's when I began to think that I was one of those priests whom she had chosen. And that's maybe also the reason that Jesus guided me, that I didn't go at once to any other parish where the bishop wanted to send me, but that I should go to Świnicewackiem, to the parish of Sister Faustina, in order to learn, in order to have also first-hand knowledge about the family and about the place. And this is why when I was giving talks or traveling across America, and especially in Australia, and I was telling to people that I met the family, that I was working in the parish of Saint Sister Faustina. And for the people was something very inspiring, that they have somebody who directly, physically knows the parish, the place, and he even met the mother, and he was in the house where she was growing and when she was born, and in the church when she was baptized, and to meet her brother who was playing the organ every time when I was saying the Mass. So all these things were giving me quite a lot of conviction that I am not just on my own, but I was guided by Jesus Christ. I was guided by the one who came down to show himself and pass on the message to Sister Faustina of the divine mercy to the whole world.